안녕하세요. 매일매일 운동하기를 실천하고 있는 동탄 왕코입니다. 운동해야죠. 야간 근무가 오늘 화요일이죠. 화요일 밤, 수요일 밤, 목요일 밤, 금요일 밤, 토요일 밤. 아직도 5일이 남았네요. 여러분, 넷플릭스에서 빨간 머리엔 꼭 보세요. 정말 재밌습니다. 정말 너무 재밌어요. 저는 그 영어 공부의 일환으로 다음 주나 한 좀 지나서 그 자막 미국 영어 자막으로 한 번 더 보려고 해요. 과연 끝까지 볼 수 있을지 고민이 됩니다. 웬만해서 한 번 본 건 다시 안 보거든요. 일단 재밌어요. 정말 재밌습니다. 여러분 강추드립니다. 빨간 머리에 무조건 보세요. 저희 누나가 추천해서 봤는데 너무 재밌어. 정말 많이 울었습니다. 보면서. 나 오늘 운동 너무 하기 싫어요. 진짜 배도 고파요. 지금 10시가 넘었는데 아침 6시에 퇴근해서 아침을 먹었거든요. 근데 약간 쉐이크랑 포도만 먹었어요. 벌써 배가 너무 고픕니다. 운동 끝나고 또 저는 선식을 또 먹긴 할 건데 배가 너무 고파요. 많이 먹고 싶습니다. 일단 오늘도 역시 팔굽혀펴기랑 레그레이즈 복근 운동만 하겠습니다. 배고파서 하기가 싫네요. 그래도 오늘은 CNN을 보겠습니다. 오늘도 역시나 CNN.
In service of what is right, what is just, like Dr. King and like John Lewis. Have you spoken out in times when it was uncomfortable? Or have you acted in your own narrow self-interest, fueled by grievance and hurt feelings? Are you a President Trump? Or are you a Congressman Lewis?
My philosophy is very simple. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have a moral obligation to do something, to say something, to speak up and speak out.
The great John Lewis. We also have some breaking news on the coronavirus tonight. The NFL announcing preseason games are canceled, but apparently going ahead with the regular season. Will things be any safer then? Open doors, to develop contacts, and to unlock secrets. It takes trust.
It was the first time he really came out of his shell in front of a camera.
Trust that you'll listen,
So great that you're here today. Just highlights what's making a difference.
that you'll be honest.
I don't want to pry, but what sort of conversations do you have with them?
Trust that you'll be accurate and you'll be fair.
It was an unprecedented move, very eerie. All the roads have been closed off. Describe the scene that you arrived to.
The Apache attack helicopter.
This is what Captain Wales has been flying. What do you do with Crimea?
This is Europe's problem.
Do you want talks with them?
What is the point of talking now?
We continue to monitor the government in crisis.
This was the Duchess's first news interview. Rare access indeed.
That's what it's all about.
Max Foster, CNN.
As basketball tips off again, the WNBA is planning to dedicate their 2020 season to social justice. While the league is launching new initiatives that will help players drive conversations, some stars say they'll skip the season entirely to focus on those issues, like four-time WNBA champion Maya Moore. For the second straight season, The Minnesota Lynx superstar has put basketball on hold for social justice reform. More successfully helped Jonathan Irons overturn his 50-year prison sentence after he'd served 22 years. Washington Mystics' Natasha Cloud is also foregoing the season. Instead of preparing to defend her team's title, Cloud says she's focused on helping enact true change.
Do not be distracted by the crumbs that people are throwing at you. T-shirts and things on the court are crumbs. Taking down statues of racist slave owners, that's crumbs.
For more information on how you can help in the fight against social injustice, go to cnn.com/impact.
I actually didn't think tennis would come back so soon just because it's such an international sport. But honestly, I'm just super happy to go back there and hopefully defend my title.
Given the experience of last year, do you think you would prefer to play someone like Serena Williams again under these circumstances with no crowd there?
To be honest, I think the closer they can make the atmosphere of having fans, I think the better. I'm sure if they add like some claps here and there, will definitely put people more in a competitive environment. All we know is that there definitely will be people watching at home. I think it'll be good for us to keep that in the back of our mind.
Almost 148,000 Americans have now died of the coronavirus, and nearly 4.3 million have been infected. So why is the president suggesting governors should open up states when the scientists say that's the reason for the alarming numbers anyway? Let's discuss now. CNN White House correspondent Caitlin Collins and Dr. Jonathan Reiner, they're both here. Dr. Reiner is the director of the Cardiac Catheterization Program at George Washington University Hospital. Good evening to both of you. Caitlin, last week it seemed as if the president was actually going to be more realistic about this pandemic. So why is he pushing governors to open up? Because I think, like, Kellyanne Conway, didn't she say, like, some people, the governors opened up too fast and against our rules and blah, 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 blah. All the numbers show that is how we got into this mess in the first place. What is going on?
Yeah, you're right. Kellyanne Conway did say that the reason the president was starting these briefings back, the reason things had been changing was because they felt like some states had opened up too soon. And then we saw the president today revert back to what he had been saying that he believed there were some governors who were not doing enough to open up, that they could be doing more and they weren't going far enough, even though that comes as Dr. Birx, the coordinator on the task force and the vice president's right-hand woman during all of this, has been going around and saying that there are certain areas that need to scale back their openings, that they've gone too far too quickly. But I think, Don, what you saw today is the president saying what he really thinks and what our sources have told us he really thinks on all of this, and he was making it clear, though we've seen him go into these moments where, like he did today, he's urging people to wear masks. He's wearing a mask himself. He's telling people to social distance. He's taking a much different tone than what he had been, and he denied that it's about polls showing that people reject his response to coronavirus so far, but that is what multiple sources have told us is really, the root that's driving this change in tone that the president clearly today veered off from.
Yeah, I mean, he was all for not wearing masks and pumping people up to not to wear them in public. So, Dr. Reiner, listen, I want to ask you about this breaking news. The NFL announcing tonight that it's canceling its preseason games. If it's not safe enough to have preseason games, why is it safe enough to have regular season games? Please explain this to us.
Well, I can't explain that. I think what we're seeing from the story with the Miami Marlins is that it's tough to have professional sports during a pandemic. I mean, it's just a harsh reality. And, there's no sport where it's less possible to socially distance than professional football. And I think we have to face some hard realities now. And the hard realities are there are a lot of things that we enjoy and we love, but we just can't have them now. And the quickest way to get them back is to do the hard things like wearing masks, socially distance, closing down states that are out of control in terms of new cases of the virus. If we do that now, we can have all that back for next season. And that's what we should be doing now. We should be focusing our attentions on that. And I think it'll be less of a disappointment to cancel the season now than to get a game into the season and have to just disassemble everything then.
Yeah. And should the same apply to college sports, college football?
Yeah. Look, there's a lot at stake. We can replace seasons. We can do all kinds of inventive things. We can have a spring season at some point for certain sports. But what we can't replace are human lives. So let's just face that now. We are going to put the pandemic down. We're smart people in this country, and we have the will to do it. We just need the leadership. But we'll get that eventually. And when we do that, we'll start to reassemble our lives. But we can't replace the people that we lose. We have to be smart now. So let's, cut our losses and baseball. I live for baseball, but we just may not be able to have it this year.
Yeah. Let's be smart. Let's be adults about it.
너무 싫어.
Caitlin, I want to talk to you about National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien testing positive for coronavirus. Is the White House saying anything about his contact with the president?
They said that they don't believe the president or the vice president is at risk for exposure, but it's interesting because what they're not saying is the last time that he actually met with the president, because it wasn't that long ago that the press secretary said O'Brien meets with the president twice a day. He's on half a dozen calls with him, was talking about just how much they do interact. And then today when the president was asked about this diagnosis, the only thing he said was, I haven't seen him lately, which raises questions. Why hasn't he seen his own national security advisor recently, but also whether or not when the last time they met actually was. And so far, no one has gotten back to us on that. We do know he was here at the White House last Thursday. He got a call, we were told, and after he got that call, he abruptly left the White House campus and didn't come back. And now we know he's isolating off campus. But Don, one thing I do want to point out that as we were reporting this out today, one thing we found out is he did not tell his staff formally that he had tested positive for coronavirus. Some of the senior staffers on the National Security Council found out from the press today that their boss had tested positive for COVID-19. Through that, they did not find out through any other means. And it was just notable. I mean, they sent out an email last week saying that a cafeteria staffer had tested positive and warning people, that this is something that happened. We don't think you're at risk, but wanted to give you a heads up. They did not do similar for the National Security Advisor to the President of the United States testing positive for coronavirus.
Oh boy, there's a story there. Thank you both. I appreciate it. Labs say that they're struggling to keep up. Why months into the coronavirus pandemic, there are still huge delays in testing and how that's impacting the spread of the disease. We're going to talk about that next.
On our next Going Green, protecting our precious waters. South African surfers take on ocean plastic.
One individual can have a huge difference.
While in the US, turning off the tap on fashion's water pollution.
Now, failure is just not an option.
And building a cleaner Indonesia, one river at a time.
We can stop that endless flow of plastic.
Going Green on CNN, in association with Kirloskar. This weekend,
Living Golf is back.
Go behind the scenes with some of the most powerful players in the game. See what's ahead for the golfers and the tournament as the season resumes following the lockdown.
I'm Shane O'Donoghue. That's on Living Golf.
This weekend on CNN, in association with Gulf Saudi.
There, another shot.
They called for backup and none has arrived.
Very nice to meet you. I wish you the best.
Join Anderson Cooper and Dr. Sanjay Gupta live for a new CNN Global Town Hall on the coronavirus pandemic.
We're determined to keep bringing you as much knowledge as we can.
Coronavirus, Facts and Fears, Friday on CNN.
I'm David Culver in Shanghai, China, and this is CNN. those states that have been able to turn the curve around and see major declines in the number of cases are going to be really stressed to try and keep that progress going forward. You know, as we think about trying to get the schools open, you have to get community transmission under control. And in so many states, we're seeing just the opposite. We're seeing areas that were having low rates of transmission now seeing much higher rates of transmission. And that's a very dangerous situation when you think about school reopening. It's so critically important that all of the decisions that we do are based on the best public health science. And you never want to get in a situation where the science and what goes into a guidance is politicized. It may be that policy decisions
팔굽혀펴기 10개만 하고 끝내겠습니다.
but the science itself
배고파, 너무
needs to
배고파.
be separated from the political process.
I'm Matthew Chance in London. This is CNN.
Dr. Anthony Fauci with a stark warning tonight that the U.S. could still see tens of thousands more deaths from the coronavirus. Let's discuss now. Dr. Mark McClellan is here. He's a former FDA commissioner and director of the Duke Margolis Center for Health Policy.